Good evening and welcome to the old and the young and the oldish, I guess. I don't know what we're going to call him, but we'll go older. Scrum. Tonight it's myself, obviously Simon Fole as the old, my young friend over there, Sam, who is the young, and a very, very special guest over there in the good old US of A, our friend Kyle. Welcome, Kyle, to our podcast, and we've got plenty lined up for you. So over to you, Sam. Fire away.
So, first of all, I think we're probably one of the first in this podcast to have an American player on, what is amazing. I'm going to let you introduce yourself because for the life of me, I can't pronounce your last name. So, if we let you introduce yourself, I feel like that will be for the best.
All right, yeah, perfect. My name's Kyle Ciquera. Nobody really calls me Kyle, though. They usually call me either Pot Roast or the Eagle. Those are my nicknames. But yeah, happy to be here. Really excited to talk to you guys tonight, and hopefully it's a good chat.
Wonderful, wonderful. The Six Nations has just ended. I wonder if you have watched that.
Yeah, I watched a little bit. Really surprised by Wales, and I've watched and listened to a lot of European people talk about how Wales is just a dumpster fire, and they come out and win the whole thing. So that's like a huge thing. A little disappointed in how England's playing, but I think they'll turn it around.
Yeah, it was a sad moment for Englishmen at the time. We need to jump straight into this because there's no need to dwell on the Six Nations because we don't want to talk about Wales winning because that hurts to talk about. So the first thing we're going to jump into is we're going to discuss rugby in the good old US of A. What's it like? See, I got my New York United jersey a couple years ago now when they just started up. Ben Foden, of course, went over. Ben Foden's from my local club, Northampton Saints, where Simon has played and where I'm a massive supporter of. I've actually got Dylan Hartley's training shirt on right now. So what is it like over there? Because it seems different. It seems at a different level because I'm seeing glimpses of what rugby looked more like in the early 2000s, and I'm seeing glimpses of what rugby looks like today, and it's really interesting because it's very developmental and it seems very experimental at the moment, but it also seems like great fun to watch.
Yeah. So right now, I think we have a good blend of a lot of international talent coming over and playing. And like it's not just like some nobodies either. Like just on my team alone, we have Dougie Fife who played for the Scotland Sevens, Bodie Waka who played for the New Zealand Sevens. So we definitely got some good caliber players, and I think it's just like for an American, it's just something you just have to be a sponge and take it all in, because like it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to play with guys like that. And even from the coaching aspect, like we have Coach Martin from Otago, who is a world class head coach, knows what he's talking about, is really invested in every player on our team. And it's just, it's been an unreal experience. Definitely different from the European game. Like we don't have a lot of academies or anything to really get into at the moment. I know the MLR is trying to set that up right now, with each individual team having academies. I know the Free Jacks themselves have been really pushing for it. In the fall, we actually did a bunch of RTGs around New England and identified, I think we touched base with almost 400 athletes. It's growing. The game itself is growing in the States, which is really good. Just I think some more time and some more development within the grassroots game will help it a lot. So.
Yeah, I was Kyle. I was lucky enough back in 1994, just before rugby went professional in the UK. We toured America, and as a younger man, I was thinking, America. Having lived there, I thought I don't remember them being any. I played soccer, but never rugby. But we went over in '94. We landed in Chicago. We had a weekend in Chicago. We played the Chicago Lions, who, mate, there were some big boys in there. And if I'm brutally honest, where we beat them, really was on the technical, the scrum and the ruck. They just want to line you up and give you the biggest hit, high five each other, and we'd go off and score in the corner. We then moved on to Indianapolis and played Indianapolis, and ended up in Columbus, Ohio, for 2 weeks, which is a huge university town. I'm sure some of the boys have still got kids there. Sorry, Sam. I mean that in the nicest possible. We had a wonderful time. But I always thought that if America got hold of rugby, my God, they would be a force to be reckoned with, because the fallout, if you don't quite make American football, where do all these guys go that don't quite make it? There's a huge pool of guys there that are supreme athletes built for rugby. So I'm really glad to see that it's taken off, and you're getting the guys in that are now coming over and being attracted to the USA. Is gonna, all of a sudden, I think you guys are gonna take off, and I hope TV gets behind it out there, and then God help the rest of the world.
Yeah, I mean, just from the TV aspect, football is just a multi-billion-dollar thing at the moment, and it's just easy to advertise in football, whereas rugby, like, there's no stop and go, there's no commercial breaks in the game, which kind of just puts football at this great advantage over rugby at the moment, just because all of these companies can put their ads up and just put it on TV, and everyone can see it.
Yeah.
So I think that's like their big step going forward. Like, how do you get that advertising out there while also putting your rugby product out there?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we just got a new commissioner of the league last year. He worked with the Dallas Mavericks, the NBA team, under Mark Cuban. I think what he's doing right now has just been great so far across the board. Developed a new app for the league. Got the Rugby Network going, which is you can watch all the MLR games for free if you just sign up for the app. Doesn't matter where you are. And a lot of teams are making local partnerships with local television companies. So, like, the Free Jacks are having the New England Sports Network, Nesson doing theirs. But all over the league, there's other groups that are doing the same sort of thing. So yeah, I think it's definitely getting the word out there, and just pushing the sport pretty much. I think it's all going really well.
It's I mean the seven. I mean, Mike Friday went over there and was a sevens coach for USA quite a few years ago, and it raised a few eyebrows. And even I retired in 2000. The USA seven side was phenomenal, very good, full of gas and everything. And it's hopefully it's progressed on from that now we're starting to see some big names are migrating over to the USA, which is fabulous. And I hope, like you say, if the TV can work their sponsorship around breaks and everything and get their adverts in, commercials as you call them, adverts, but that would be a massive springboard, because I think Americans they like the contact, they like the gladiatorial. I'll be honest with you, I went to a couple of baseball games while I was out there. That's a bit like our cricket, very boring. I'm just going to offend a lot of Americans there, but basketball I went to, that was fantastic. That was a good night out. And I think, if you get the crowd behind that, get into a rugby match, you guys you'll fly, and it'll be great for the sport.
Yeah, hopefully that all pans out. Easier,
and you can earn more money.
Than done. Yeah. But yeah, that's really just I think a lot of guys that are in the league right now, their big focus just to grow the game of rugby in the States, and I think it's just really taken off right now, and you see it in 5-10 years, like how far it will go, and I think it's going to be a massive improvement from where it is right now.
Personally, the only sport I've watched in the States, the States and Canada, was ice hockey. And I actually did a tryout. I played ice hockey as a child, and I went over and I played in New Jersey, I believe. I played for Manhattan. So yeah, New Jersey, Manhattan Monarchs. And I go into the changing room. I must have been 6 years old. you've got kids who are built like trucks, scary as hell, and they're like, yeah, I've been playing since I was 2. Every day after school, I'm down here. Rugby, every day I try to get my hand on a ball, and every day I am. I'm lucky enough to have 2 brothers. I go out and I have a kickabout with my older brother who played for Wasps Academy, and my younger brother who goes to a very well-renowned school where they play a lot of rugby. Personally, I think if rugby takes off in the States, they are going to be absolutely massive. I don't know where they go from there, though. Like, how do you get it bigger? Do you play them against countries like Italy, like Georgia, get a good game in there? How do you reckon you expand rugby in the States on the international level?
For me,
Yeah.
they've got to start playing, like almost like an American league. So you've got a decent side in Uruguay, Paraguay, Brazil, Argentina. Probably not Argentina. They're a little bit above where you're trying to fit in. But if you had a Nations Cup and start to feed that, maybe that's the way that it would springboard it. It'd be unfair to say, right, in 2 years' time, USA in the Six Nations, because they'd end up like another Italy, I feel, or it might go the other way for them. They might have a couple of years of getting a good hiding, but knowing Americans as I do, it wouldn't take them long before they were at a level. But I know it's a difficult question. What do you think, Carl? How do you see it progressing?
Yeah. I mean, just from Sam's story, like saying that guys playing ice hockey when they were 2, like I used to play ice hockey, and I started playing at probably 3 or 4, and I played up until my junior year of high school. So like, if we can start getting building the grassroots rugby in the States, getting people involved when they're younger, because I didn't start playing rugby until I was a freshman in high school.
Okay.
Which is a lot of case for a lot of Americans. You don't get a lot of probably under 13, under 10 rugby clubs in the States. So if we could grow up that grassroots game and then be able to get kids involved at a younger age, I feel like that will translate into the international level from there. Also, having the MLR is actually probably a huge help, because now all those guys are dedicating a majority of their time just to rugby, not having to have another job, having to have all this other responsibilities. They can just focus on rugby itself, which I think is going to help us a lot. I mean, we had in 2019 in the World Cup, we didn't really have a great showing. We didn't win a game, but the MLR was only a year old. So, like, I think if you give it more time, it's eventually going to happen. It's going to turn around. But yeah, I think just growing the grassroots game itself, and then just keep filing players into the MLR, it's going to really turn around.
And just a quick question for me. Sorry, Sam, I'm stealing your show here. The MLR, is that teams across the USA, or is there leagues in sort of a bit like the American football? Are you in different divisions, or?
Yeah, so right now we're in 2 different conferences. So there's East and a West Coast. So in the East Coast, there's New England, New York, Toronto, Atlanta, and I'm going to say Houston. And then in the West Division, there's Austin, Utah, Seattle, LA, San Diego. There used to be Glendale was in it, but they just backed out. And Dallas was an expansion team, and I think they backed out as well. And there's a team in NOLA, New Orleans as well. So at the end of the season, we'll play the top 2 teams will play each other in the East and West.
Yeah.
And then whoever wins that will play for the championship. And then there was talks last year before COVID happened of the MLR champion playing the South American Rugby League champion, which I thought was going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that all stopped because of COVID. I don't know if they're going to try to redo that, but yeah, I think that would be a cool thing to see.
Mate, that's some good road trips there. LA, Vegas, get in. How cool would that be? that beats Newcastle away on a Friday night here when it's -10 and throwing it down the rain. Yeah, that sounds like a good trip. I'd like that one.
Yeah, last year we spent so we didn't end up playing a home game last year. So our first 5 games were away, and we ended up playing 2 games in Vegas. And we just stayed there for 2 weeks. But yeah, it was an awesome trip. Awesome trip.
That's a shame. I'm liking this American rugby, Sam, more and more. When you're a little bit, Sam, when you're a little bit older and you get to Vegas, you'll understand why we're smiling.
Simon's going to be making a comeback in 2 weeks. He's just going to turn up at
I'll
Free Jacks.
carry some kit.
He's going to be like 54 and ready.
Water boy, do whatever if I get to Vegas, no problem.
Don't worry, he's got a little bit of coaching experience. He'll be fine. I also wanted to, again, the MLR is massive. What I want to talk about. It is amazing to see it. I don't know where it's going to go yet. I think it's going to be big, personally, and I really want it to be big. We didn't just get you on here to talk about. Well, we did. We got you on here to talk about Major League Rugby, but we also got you here to talk about prop stuff, normal rugby stuff. What's the social side of it like over there? Like, you can only start drinking at 21. Like,
yeah, legally.
Yeah, legally. Yeah, it's quite. So I went to university 4 years, and yeah, it was definitely a great time. Like the rugby team itself, definitely. I mean, the university doesn't really like you. We're trying to change. At my school, like
Coca-Cola. It was special Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
That's how we refer to it.
Trying to change the image, I guess. I think definitely in rugby, definitely in the States, if you're looking for a social side, you pretty much find one everywhere. It's definitely, I think that's what gets a lot of people hooked on it, is just that social aspect of it. And I think that's why it's so college rugby or university rugby is probably the biggest sport played by men's and women's. One, it's in every university or across the country, and two, just that social aspect of it that rugby brings. I think it's really enticing to college players across the board, especially if you're 18 or 19. Like, if you move to a school and you don't really know anybody, and then you just find a team of 40 people that just love hanging out and drinking pretty much. Yeah, it's definitely a good time.
The beauty of rugby, and I say it to all the people that I speak to that never are not really into rugby. What's it all about? Why do you love it so much? And for me, growing up as a kid, I played. My dad played, so I played from the age of 5. And rugby's a game that it really does cater for all. Whether you're, the freak at school who's going to be 6'4" at 12 years old, you're in. Or if you're the little short, fat, dumpy kid, and no disrespect, you're in the front row. If you're skinny, it doesn't matter. You go on the wing. There is a place for everybody, and it has no boundaries to age, color, creed, body shape. And the thing was amazed me that you're always made to feel welcome, and with the respect towards the referee, you always, I think, learn your manners through sport. And as I'm older now and employ people, I'll always try and employ people that have been in a team, because they have a certain amount of team ethic about them, and they, I don't want a lone wolf working for me, because they might be good at their job, but they'll piss everybody else off, because they're, when you get guys that have been involved in that team sport, they're very much team players. And I think that's one of the most important things about rugby and what it teaches people. So, in America, like you say, as a social, there's nothing better. It's you're governed by your teammates. Your teammates tell you when you mess up, and hopefully if you overstep the line, they'll tell you as well. And that can only be a good thing. Although I'm not condoning underage drinking, Sam, but it was I did my last 2 years of school in America. So I was actually 15, but I went into my junior and senior year a little bit younger, um, and I managed to forge my passport and buy beer for. So I was quite a popular lad at school. Much to my mum and dad's ill repute, but no, I did try some American football. Unless you've lived and breathed it, I guess it's the same as rugby. It kind of blew my mind, and I never got in the team. So I ended up going and play soccer. But you've obviously played a bit of American football. What was your position?
Yeah, I played center, so I hiked the ball. Yeah, it's definitely a totally different animal in football. The reason why I liked rugby so much is because they told me I could pick up the ball and run, which I couldn't do in football. Also, I think in rugby you can really think for yourself. I mean, in football, it's just like you take these amount of steps, you do it this way,
Yeah.
you go and block this person, and that's pretty much across the board. Like you run this route, you throw it to this person, you run it this way. Whereas rugby, you just kind of play what's in front of you, and you make the decision, and you have all the options in front of you, and you're the decision maker if you have the ball. Even without the ball, like you're still making decisions whether to poach the ball or do anything like that. So I think that really turned me on to rugby a lot. Yeah, just running the ball was my whole life. I was told I was always the biggest dude, like not the biggest dude, but I was always on the heftier side in football. And growing up, we had a weight limit, so I was always playing with the older kids, but I'd never be able to run the ball or touch the ball for that matter.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was definitely a good. Once I found out, I didn't know anything about rugby going into it. I just did it to have some conditioning on the side of playing hockey and whatnot. And yeah, the first thing they said is anybody can touch the ball and pass the ball, and I was like, I'm sold.
I'm all over this.
Yeah, and yeah, I never expected it to take me this far, and now I'm all in on it. So,
well, when I first started playing, it was more. There was 3 rules for me. It was don't kick, and don't kick, because that was the forwards weren't allowed to kick. And then as a prop, you just say to the prop, all you got to do is push, shut up and push. But I mean, the modern game, as you say now, the number on your back denotes what you do from kickoff and scrum. Really, that's it. The rest of the time, I look at props now, and we'll talk about John Afoa in the English League playing for Bristol at the minute. He has got the nicest pair of hands that he put backs to shame. He's that talented. Genge and people like that can run, and so it is like you say now, they're all the modern rugby player has got all the tools in the box now. They've got to be able to run, they've got to be able to tackle, and they've got to be spatially aware and fill gaps, and phenomenal fitness as well to make it. So I understand what you're saying. I could never get my head around American football, and you could be on, the kick could go over your head and it'd be run back, and then you're off. What? I've only just come on, and you'd be gone again, and wait, So yeah, you make a good point. In rugby, you got to think. I mean, you're thinking on your feet every play. You're involved from the minute you start until the minute the coach says, right, I'm going to bring on a finisher or something else. So yeah, so you make a good point.
I've watched with American football. I can't get my head around it. I understand, chuck it to the fast guy. He runs into the end zone. He doesn't have to put it down. He stands there and celebrates. Okay, he gets all the money, all the women, and then you've got the big guys in the centre who just stand there. Another thing I can't get my head around though is these new rules in the MLR. Can you explain some of them to us? Because I'm watching, I'm like, this is rugby. Yes, this is rugby. And then I'm like, what? I know there's something about scoring between the posts. There's stuff about scrummaging, what you're probably a bit more familiar with. So can you just explain that, please?
Yeah. So if you score in between the posts, you don't have to kick it. It's just an automatic 7. And then scrum time, there's only 1 reset. So if it goes down, the next one, it's going to be either a free kick or a penalty, depending on what happens. There's a shot clock, so when you kick it, there's only 60 seconds to kick when you go for points or after a try. And I think the other one is if you get a red card, you can put somebody back on the field after 20 minutes. So those are the new rules they're implementing for the season. I think they just want to put out a faster quality rugby with ball and hand a lot more. And yeah, for an American audience, I think that will work out really well just because they're trying to get people attracted to seeing a lot of ball and play and like hitting and running to closely try to relate it to football almost. I mean, if you're scrumming 3-4 times in a row, I think a lot of people are just going to turn off the TV because they don't know what they're looking at. But if it's just a quick scrum, get the ball back and play, get it through the hands and whatnot, I think it's a lot better for an American viewer that hasn't really watched any rugby. Like me, I'm a little upset that the scrum resets are like that just because I love scrumming. But I mean, what are you going to do? It makes for a quicker game. That's pretty much what it comes down to, and I think it works out for a better product for an American viewer.
I can agree with most of those. The one thing I wouldn't say I agree with is the 20 minutes on the red. Maybe introduce an amber card instead. What I think they've done in Super Rugby. Foley's looking at me like, what you're talking about to do with the reds. The kick in the middle of the posts, I kind of agree with, but I also kind of don't. Yeah, I find that so interesting that they've changed the rules on that. The resets, I think that's quite a good one.
Well, we're doing the same now. You look at our referees now, and come on, guys, scrum, let's get it on. They don't want to see that, that 5 minutes. It can eat 3, 4, 5 minutes of a game, just from the scrum going down, resetting, and so they're instilling that. And I get it. If it works for you guys, then there's no reason they'll look at it and think, like, what can we do? Because the English game has got predominantly this season. All of a sudden, there's some big scores coming out, and the game's getting quicker. The tackle law now, it's not allowing that complete smother. People are getting the ball out, and it's a better spectacle now. I totally agree, and hopefully, what you guys are doing might eventually, much as you love scrummaging, and you'll listen to the guys that commentate in England, and even that front row. They love a scrum and another scrum, and they can say, well, he's boring on that, and he's left it, he's gone long, and mate, I don't care. Get the ball in. Let's get the number 8 smashing into number 10, and that for me is a better spectacle. But yeah, that's good. That's interesting.
I do agree with that. I do love a good scrum. When I was younger, I was a bit shorter, so they made me play prop, and Dad made me play hooker because my dad used to play hooker for what is now Newcastle Falcons. It was Gloucestershire at the time, so I do love a good scrum. But now, as I play flanker and 8, I'm a bit more like get the ball out, grab the ball, hit someone, get it down, get it back out. Yeah, I think we saw a great demonstration of the in-betweens, though, between a fast game and a slow game, then a fast game, then a not so fast game with France, Wales this weekend. I don't know if you saw it, but it was absolutely amazing. I feel like I just need to comment on that because it was an amazing game.
Last week?
Yes, France, Wales.
Yeah, that for me was for anyone who's a neutral, that was a fantastic game of rugby, which had a bit of everything. Passion, flair, physicality, two sides going out to win a game at all costs. Chuck a yellow card and a red card into the mix as well. It had it all. You couldn't really fault it. And yeah, unfortunately for Wales, they came second. But then our dear friends the Scotsmen and did them a massive favour on Friday night.
That led on to an amazing game, France.
Yeah, again, never write off Scotland ever. Not this season. And I said on our previous podcast, don't be surprised to see Scotland beat them. And France in the last minute just pressed the self-destruct button. I don't know what they were thinking. They couldn't win it from there. but they couldn't get to the points they needed to overhaul Wales. So, why the guy didn't just kick it out, I don't know. But that was, that was a Six Nations done and dusted. So,
Kyle, did you manage to watch Scotland vs France?
Yeah. I thought it was a great game overall. Hats off to Scotland for pulling it out there and winning. I just like how, on any given day, it doesn't matter who you're playing in rugby. If you show up and give it your all, you're gonna pretty much win the game. Doesn't matter who you're playing. I think it's just an awesome experience. Like who thought Scotland was gonna beat France in the first place? And France having all that momentum. And their original game got canceled in the first place, and then to come back 2 weeks and put out that product and win it was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, it was a good tournament. England, I'll give it an American term, we sucked. We were pretty awful. I don't know what, we've got some fantastic players, and he stuck with the old guard. So, Wales, they came into the tournament without a prayer, end up winning it. France were surprised everyone, and Ireland are on a bit of a rebuild. So, yeah, it's good for the game that there's not one dominant force in it year in, year out. It keeps it. It's the hardest tournament in the world for a reason, and long may it continue. And hopefully we can. We just need some crowds back now. I don't know what the situation's like. Is at the Saints, and they're now saying it's just a job now. It's not the crowd being there and the adulation and is what it's all about. Makes it a fantastic job. Now it is literally the game time isn't. They finish the game. The protocol means they all have to go home. They don't even have a beer so it's kind of hard at the minute, and hopefully we can get over that pretty soon.
Carl, what do you reckon then? Do you reckon that with rugby in the States, I believe, are you allowed fans at the moment? No, not.
So it depends on the state you're in. So like at LA, we didn't have any fans. We just played at Houston last Saturday. We had fans. I don't know how many. Seemed like a good amount, but there hasn't been fans in over a year, so I don't really know. But yeah, it was a lot different. Like playing in a stadium that was completely empty compared to playing in front of people, getting heckled at by the fans and whatnot. Yeah, it was, but it made for a better product. Like it felt a lot more of a game environment, and just felt normal. Playing in front of people. So it was definitely cool. I think our game. So we have our first home game. We haven't officially played a home game yet in the MLR, so this will be our first one. And I think we're able to have fans. I think that's big if, but I'm pretty sure if everything goes smoothly, I think we will end up having fans. But yeah, it depends on the state.
When is that? Because we'll be watching that, won't we, Sam?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is Saturday. Against Utah.
Give yourself a plug. Give yourself a plug. Come on, we're going to get you. We're going to get the viewing figures up in the UK.
Yeah. Here we go.
Come on, let's go.
Saturday. I don't know what time it's at. Sorry, I haven't been thinking about it a lot lately, but it's on the Rugby Network.
Cool.
So everybody can watch it. You just sign up. It's free. It should be an awesome game. If you're in New England watching it, it will be on Nessun. And every person in New England should have that. But yeah, Rugby Network will be on there.
I think it's great that it's free if you want to watch it around the world, because that just gets rugby to so many more people. I've got a couple more questions for you, and that'll probably be it for today. What props do you look up to? And do you ever reckon you'll play in like the Premiership over here, or maybe go over to Super Rugby or anything like that in the years to come?
Yeah. Growing up, I watched a lot of Joe Marler play. I just like his character. Like he's he's just a goofball off the field, but when it comes onto the field, he just flips the switch, and just it's absolute game time, and he's just a beast. I like Sinclair. He's been playing unreal at Bristol. Started that big maul try that they had at the end of the game, which I thought was awesome. But yeah, I think those two guys have just been really good. As for the premiership, I mean, I haven't really thought about it much. I mean, just I'll play pretty much anywhere. I just want to. Growing up when I started playing in high school, all my coaches just said, you can pretty much play anywhere in the world as long as you have a pair of boots. Someone will open their doors and let you play. And yeah, it's pretty much been true for my whole career. But yeah, any opportunity really, I would love to have to play really anywhere across the world. So who knows?
I love that. That's such a nice sentiment. If you've got a pair of boots, you can play anywhere in the world, and I do believe that is ever so much true. Foley will agree with me there.
I've been lucky to sort of play in both eras, so professional and the amateur. I must admit, it was a lot more tours and stuff in the amateur era. And yeah, I managed to get some fantastic tours and made some good friends around the world. And yeah, I'm never retired. I'm still, I play a bit of Vets 10s now. The last tournament was in Phuket, which was, yeah, it was fun. So yeah, you're right. Both those guys you talked about there, Marla is as mad as a bicycle, but yeah, he gave Sinclair a tickle on Saturday, and the game of minds was immense, and they're teammates from before, so they know each other well. But the mind game and the battle they had, yeah, it was phenomenal. And yeah, mate, there's guys turned up at the Saints. It doesn't quite happen so much now, but back in the amateur day, we had a guy who, even from Australia, he turned up, came training. He ended up playing in the European Cup. That was Donny McKinnon. Gary Pagel, somebody propped against him in an international game and said to him, McGeechan, we need that guy. He is awesome. So you never know where your breaks come. If you ever get a chance to scrummage up against one of these English boys and rub his face in the dirt, you might get a look in, fella. That'd be great to see an American. We've seen a couple of wingers, I think, and Dan Lyle, I played against him. He was a good number 8. So there's been a few, but I don't think we've had an American prop yet. So mate, you could be the first. That'd be awesome.
Could be unreal.
Yeah.
Oh, this is amazing. This has been one hell of an episode. I can't stress how good this episode has actually been. I feel like we're going to knock it out of the park because, Kyle, you have given probably one of the best episodes that we could ask for. I'm going to do the outro as we're going to unbind from the scrum. Do you want to do it as the Eagle? Do you want to say, and with that, we're going to unbind from the scrum?
Oh, sure. I'd be honored. And what was it again? Sorry.
And with that, we'll unbind from the scrum.
All right. And on that, we'll unbind from the scrum.
Perfect. Well done. Thank you very much, Carl. I'm just going to stop the video.